have roll call, please?
Jonathan McKay.
Here.
Michael Snar.
Here.
Bill Learman.
Here.
Bob Osborne.
Here.
Michael Albright.
Here.
Nick Evelyn.
Here.
Matt Perky.
Here. Seeing everyone here, would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Under the President's agenda, we have approval of the agenda. What is your pleasure?
Move it be accepted as presented.
Second. Motion second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. You also have before you the April 20th regular council meeting minutes. What is your pleasure?
Move to be accepted as presented.
Second.
Motion seconded by Learman to accept the April 20th council meeting minutes as presented. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are accepted. Thank you. I'd like to share a few things with you before we start the regular portion of the meeting. We've condensed some of our meeting guidelines to a bullet point, and I just want to kind of read through this. Unfortunate that we have to continue revising our guidelines, but that's where we are right now. Please remember, city council meetings are for everyone, and behavior matters. We sometimes have young children, students, Boy Scouts and/or Girl Scouts attend these meetings. Everyone in attendance has the right to feel safe and comfortable at city council meetings. Please do the following. Sign up to speak in the open portion. Speak only from the podium. Direct remarks to city council as a whole. Address elected officials and staff by their titles. Keep your comments 3 minutes or less. Present any handouts for council members to clerk of council. Maintain an attitude of civility to elected officials, staff, and others in attendance. Please do not do the following. Speak out of turn from your seat. Speak without being recognized by the president of council. Use profanity. Talk over others. Badger elected officials, staff members, guest speakers, or other attendees. Use speech that is demeaning or insulting to others. Yell, shout, cheer, boo, hiss, etc. Engage in disruptive behavior. And disruptive behavior is outlined in ORC 2917, disturbing a lawful meeting. If you do these things, you may expect to, if something outrages the sensibilities, a gavel warning will be issued if the warning is not heeded. The President of Council is prepared to instruct the authorities to immediately remove and have arrested the member of public elected officials or staff member who violates Ordinance 2917.12. Just kind of like to say that we've probably been having council meetings for over 200 years in Wilmington, and we've never had to have guidelines like this, so I'm so sorry. In addition, I'd like to open up a discussion with City Council regarding the manner in which the public interacts with council at our meetings. As you know, over the past several months, there has been an escalation of people, most of whom are not even Wilmington residents, coming into council meetings, accusing council elected officials and city staff members of corruption, incompetence, and a myriad of other slanderous things. On a regular basis, our words are deliberately misinterpreted and taken out of context, used as fodder in the social media system. Our friends and families watch while we are criticized and berated for the service we give to the citizens of Wilmington. Yes, hearing people's concerns is part of the job. Yes, we understand that sometimes a citizen will be unhappy with something we have done and will have something negative to say. Yes, we want to hear all these things, the good and the bad, because that is how we best serve the people. But that is not what is happening here. We have members of the public using council members as their bully pulpit to push their agendas and gain social media prominence. To this end, like parasites that carelessly feed off of the grief of people who have been thoroughly, immeasurably at pain and loss. They are repetitive and misinformed. Their actions are disruptive to the business of council. I'd like to reiterate that. Their actions are disruptive to the business of council. Without care or concern for the good of the city, they knowingly spread lies, half-truths, and misinformation, creating a culture of distrust rather than an environment where collaboration and information sharing can thrive. We've done our best to set rules and policies that will restore to order council members. Behavior matters. Meetings of city council should be for everyone. We sometimes have young children, students, Boy Scouts, etc. at the meetings. Everyone should feel safe and comfortable. We cannot stand aside while a loud, angry few, reiterate few, infringe upon the rights and sensibilities of the majority of our citizens. We cannot allow a government meeting to become a room where you would not feel comfortable bringing young people to learn about civics in their community. We can do better than this. With this all in mind, I would like to open up the discussion for some other ideas for council. Along with the current rules for public comment, restricting comments to only items on the meeting's agenda. If your item has nothing to do with the business of that evening's council meeting, the council meeting is not the correct forum to bring it forward. Number two, people wishing to make public comments must sign up prior to the meeting. If you have other concerns having to do with council, please take these directly to your representative, your council person, or you can email the clerk of council. If you include your address, the clerk can get your comment or concerns of members at large to your council board member for review. You can call the city phone number, you can text MyGov, and just like to explore avenues of citizen engagement on a trial basis, such as the possibility of a town hall type forums or other regular business hours for council members. I'd like to just kind of open up those ideas to council, get your input, and we can kind of go from there.
I think we've covered all the bases. I mean, we've got to try to have some order in this civil matter, and disparaging remarks, public attacks. It's got to stop. I've seen it at school board meetings. You know, it's had to, you can't condone that. We all should be responsible adults. Everyone should be responsible adults.
Bill, you bring up a good point. You mentioned school board meeting. You bring up the point of school board meeting. You bring up school board meetings. I know that if we were to go to a commissioner's meeting at the county or a school board meeting, that this is the way that they conduct their meetings. So I know this didn't come out of left field, but I do, to Mark's point, I think there needs to be that vehicle or that place for people to come and contact their elected officials, right? So I love the idea of a town hall. I would be happy to participate in one. I think can't speak for the rest of the elected officials, I love that idea, actually. And I think they should be on a regular basis, scheduled and, able for, a venue big enough for anybody that wants to attend to be able to attend and participate, so. I understand doing the city's business here is paramount, but we also need to make sure that we provide a place for the public to interact with their elected officials. So that's my 2 cents. I think if we can accomplish both of those things, I'm happy. So
Just kind of like to have input from everyone, whether or not you'd like to tighten down procedures a little more or not.
I totally agree. I like the town hall idea. I mean, there's no real place for people to have open conversations. I think it would do a lot to at least alleviate the rumor train. Because if you don't get to say here, then it goes to social media, and that's just not the best place, as we all know. So I'm with you. I think it's a great idea.
I will say I don't know, how to quickly implement that, but I think it's something we should figure out sooner than later. Even regardless of this, I think that it's a good vehicle, a thing that would be positive for the city to move forward with.
I really hate that this has to come to this. I've been attending city council meetings since I was in high school. I sat right back there in the corner. And most of the time, I was the only person in the audience. It's sad that we just can't have public comment. I do like the idea of a forum because people deserve to be heard. If you have a concern about the city and you want to address it, like the gentleman that came from Morrow last council meeting, his stuff wasn't on the agenda. I'm really torn about this, but if it's the will of the council, then it's the will of the council. But I like the idea of a forum because people deserve to be heard. And it's important that we don't stifle that. And so I'm in favor of the forum idea.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with everybody up here that's spoken so far in that the town hall may be the best choice. It may be a good idea at this point to limit the subjects that are discussed during the open to the public to just what's on the agenda. And I think that we're at that, I'm afraid that we're at that point where that needs to be discussed and other things need to go to the town hall or go to somewhere where we can hear things and be able to question and do some of those activities.
I agree with these gentlemen with what they've said about the first point or point A. Point B, though, I think is extremely easy to. This meeting's established time. Our revised code. It's 7:30. Unless you're individually late, that's a perfectly fine thing to do. It's become increasingly later and later and more theatrical with the sign-up process and who goes in what particular order and a bunch of rigmarole. And I think item B or 2 is perfectly fine, and I agree with these gentlemen about Article A about either a forum or what's pertinent in the specific agenda.
Almost the oldest guy up here. I've got some memories about some pretty active meetings in the past. Recollection that immediately comes to mind is the controversy around when this building was built. We originally put it on the ballot to be across the street in the parking lot behind Rivera Cruz, beyond Rivera Cruz. And the citizens hated it. And you know what we learned from that? We weren't listening well enough. And so what we did was have town hall meetings to discuss what needed to go into City Hall, where it should go, got everybody's opinions about it. And in the end, the good came out of that. Now, I'm obviously from the comments, I'm all in favor of town halls. I think it's a wonderful thing, and it's a great opportunity for people to speak. These council meetings, people need to remember that we are a legislative body. we write laws. Council, revised code says council speaks through legislation. There's been a lot of times when I wanted to comment back to some of the people, and sometimes you hear things that you hadn't heard before when they get up here and speak. And I can't say that everything that I've heard from some of the disruptors is totally unreasonable. But it was the way it was said. I think that makes us all cringe. And so consequently, I think we need to keep in mind that it is a legislative body. There's been a lot of times when I really wanted to talk back. And I was limited by what I could say because a lot of the people that were speaking to us had filed litigation against us, and we can't speak as public officials when there's a court case on somebody's docket somewhere. Now, the town hall is not going to solve that, but there's a lot of times when we can give comments back to the general public, and I think the town hall forum would be a great way to do that. Furthermore, I think it helps get the communication better between the administration and the council and the community as a whole. I think great idea. I think we ought to do it and implement it as rapidly as possible, as Councilman Kirk said.
Let's get the sound system squared away.
All right. All right, I've heard everyone's opinion. I think we are in agreement that we would like to limit discussion to agenda items going forward, not tonight because we had not discussed this prior to the meeting. And we will try to get that word out as much as we can, as soon as we can, and then figure out how to do the follow-up with the possibility of the town hall type meeting. Yes, sir.
One comment on the town halls. They need to be held in the evening so that everybody can get there and be part of it, and it probably ought to even be televised for that matter. So there's a lot of people out there in television land, in computer land, that are watching these, and they're not hearing me because actually our sound system probably isn't good enough. But that's the other thing we need to work on.
To all you that are out there in internet land, welcome to our meeting. Anything else? All right, we'll move forward with those ideas as soon as we can. Thank you all for participating.
Mr. President, I do have something to ask under your portion when you're done.
Okay, do it.
It has come to my attention, and normally these things come up under your portion from the CBB, that there's been some new bylaws that have been circulated through the Commissioner's office, and we have not received those copies yet. And I wondered if anyone has heard anything about that besides me. Because it's been 6 weeks. And so I was just curious if the administration had heard anything.
No, we have not.
Thank you.
Did you call the commissioners and ask them
Yes, I did.
what they said it's at?
They said they received it from their representative of the CBB, which is the county
Did they
rep.
say they had shared it with us?
No, it's a separate thing, because the
Yeah,
county
they
and the
shared anything
city,
with us.
so.
All right, thank you. Mr. Reddick, did you have something for us tonight?
Yes,
All right.
I think it's, probably hear me. So anyways,
Use the microphone.
They can't hear you on
oh, okay.
it's really for,
All right. I think it's consistent with what public comment should ultimately be. At the last meeting, we had a concerned citizen during public comment bring to council and everybody else a plethora of screenshots from Facebook related to, I guess, an issue they were having. Ultimately, it's my understanding that during that public comment, they were effectively saying that we were in violation of the Sunshine Act. Now, I wasn't certain because I really didn't understand the premise or what was going on. So what I did ultimately was get a copy of everything, peruse it, look at the note documentations, and I made a determination. And I had that clarified by the fact that later on that night, this individual had mentioned on another Facebook site that she or he had called out Mark McKay, Jonathan McKay, Michael Albright, and Brett Ruddick. Additionally, they said I am supposed to get an answer from Brett Ruddick, question mark, question mark, question mark. They are so uneducated on their position, it blows my freaking mind. So I'm pretty sure at this point that what they were referring to are sunshine law violations. Consequently, I've made a determination, since they brought that up publicly, that we should probably respond publicly. And therefore, that's what I'll do over the next couple minutes. So ultimately, what I believe they were referring to is the Open Meetings Act. It's a portion of the sunshine laws. It's very specific. What it means is a public body, every meeting has to be open. I call them man. It has to have the minutes, it has to have access, and it has to have notice. The allegations, I believe, from this person is that because, and what I'm going to call the Hitman episode and the See Something, Say Something episode. My understanding is based on the fact that an individual who works for the city tagged a few members of council, the president, and me, related to an incident where it says, I seriously and wholeheartedly fear this person is hiring someone to physically assault one of us, if not kill members within my group. At that point, it was my understanding, based on my memory and going through the documents, that she then, this person, tagged some members of council as a supportive measure to talk to them. That does not constitute a prearranged gathering of a public body to discuss or deliberate. Now, the 12th Court of District Appeals is very, 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 I would say, clear on this. For discussing and deliberation does not include info, investigation, or fact-finding. For the Hitman episode, none of this even occurred. Even if we grant for this scenario that there was an actual quorum, which there wasn't, because obviously the president and I are part of the quorum. However, at no point was there a prearranged discussion. It had nothing to do with the city. It was not conducting city business. So based on that, I can say that first not allegation, but legal conclusion that we violated the Open Meeting Act is completely unfounded. The second one was the See Something, Say Something, which was effectively where, again, 4 members of council were tagged on a personal post from somebody related to again, some city-related administrative things. Again, it was done as a friend. It was done as a support mechanism. It just simply never constituted, would never qualify as discussing or deliberating public business from a prearranged perspective. It simply doesn't. And I think it's important to note that I do not believe that the council at any point has violated the Open Meetings Act under 121.22. Additionally, I don't believe that accusing you of that during public comment is the appropriate mechanism by which to be heard. It should have been done via email, which we could have responded by email because it was a concern. I'm glad that they brought that concern. Or additionally, more importantly, it should have been brought before the Common Pleas Court as an injunction to determine that we had violated that thing. None of those things were done. But it's my understanding, based on the fact that I'm so uneducated on my position, that these people might not ultimately accept my position. So I strongly encourage them to seek private counsel and then follow the process, which is provided for in 121.22, which is an injunction through the Common Pleas Court. And they receive $500 per violation. But my position as your law director, and probably the appropriate person to bring this up, is that no violation has even remotely occurred. I definitely believe that I will be receiving a litany of negative posts or comments related to this. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just think it needed to be addressed. And that's all I have to say.
I'll take that.
Or if you have any questions for me, if I'm incorrect.
Thank you, Mr. Ruddick, for clarifying that. Appreciate it. All right, that's all I have under my portion. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
As you you guys have done all this negative stuff, I get to be Mr. Rogers and do the happy stuff. Alex, you want to step up front here and we'll come down and join you? For those of you that do not know Alex, it's Alex Bears. He is our Port Authority Director. Been here a couple, 3 months.
Yes.
Doing an outstanding job in the short time he's been here. Keep it up. This is International Economic Development Council Week, and we have a proclamation to give him. Whereas we wish to recognize the International Economic Development Council in the week of May 8th through 12th, 2023 as Economic Development Week. Whereas the International Economic Development Council is the largest professional economic development organization dedicated to serving economic developers, providing leadership and excellence in economic development for communities, members, and partners. And whereas the Community Economic Development Economic Network includes the City of Wilmington, the Clinton County Board of Commissioners, the Clinton County Regional Planning Commission, the Wilmington-Clinton County Chamber of Commerce, Main Street Wilmington, the Downtown Wilmington Community Improvement Corporation, Clinton County Community Improvement Corporation, Clinton County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Clinton County Port Authority. And whereas developers promote economic well-being, the quality of life for their communities by facilitating the creation, retention, and expansion of job opportunities, which facilitate growth, enhance wealth, and provide a stable tax base. Whereas economic developers help stimulate and incubate entrepreneurism in order to help establish the next generation of new businesses, which is the hallmark of the American economy. Whereas economic developers are engaged in a wide variety of settings, including the rural and urban, local, state, provincial, and federal governments, private-public partnerships, chambers of commerce, universities, and a variety of other institutions. Whereas economic developers work to aid the attraction and retention of high-quality jobs, the development of vibrant communities, the improvement of quality of life in their regions. And now, therefore, I, John M. Stanford, Mayor of the City of Wilmington, Ohio, do hereby recognize May 8th through 12th, 2023 as National Economic Week in the City of Wilmington, and remind individuals of the importance of this community celebration, which supports expanding careers, opportunity, and improving life. Thank you all for what you do.
I'll just be quick.
What did I do, break it?
I think maybe. I think the batteries are dying. So, thank you, Mayor.
Just bring it back to, oh, that's not.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I recognize after the introductory discussion that I am the first person to speak in front of council, and so I will keep it to the agenda at hand and just thank the city, thank the mayor's administration as well as council for your willingness to enter into the 5-year economic collaborative agreement. Our ability to act as one, City of Wilmington, Clinton County, Port Authority, Conventions and Visitors Bureau, and CIC is the way forward in terms of we are speaking with one voice when we are speaking to our business community as well as business community and developers throughout the state and nation. And so we thank you so wholeheartedly for that. There's nothing more to say. We looked at, Josh Roth is on board as our economic development director. I think some of you have got to know him. He's been invaluable already to some meetings in the city, and so thank you for including him on those things. And we know, and our kind of gold standard is there's no more things to say. We want to just prove it by actions and deeds and outcomes that we
that we do and get done for the city of Wilmington. So thank you guys so much, and I appreciate the proclamation, and appreciate all your guys' time with me and letting me bounce ideas off you and you give me feedback. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, in fact, we really want to give Alex and Josh both a shout out for the money they were able to get us to go ahead with phase 2 on David Drive right now.
Well, we appreciate being a good team here at the city of Wilmington, and thanks to Paul and Brian and Andrea and Mayor, especially your ability to bring us all together and work to that common good. So thank you guys, appreciate that.
Thanks a lot. Steve, 2023, the Wilmington Police Officers Memorial Service is scheduled to commence at 1 o'clock Monday, May 15th, which is National Police Day. And we normally have that out at the cemetery every year, but this year we're going to start down at the Methodist Church. We have 2 officers that actually died in the line of duty. Emery McCrayton and Marshal John Van Doren. We had 3 others who died while serving the city, Sergeant Tim Moore, Patrolman Bill Cotero, and Judge Mike Daugherty. If you haven't noticed it already, there's a plaque on the alley between H.R. Block and the Methodist Church. That's where the patrolman was shot as 2 robbers came out of the back of the Murphy Theater, or Murphy Building Hardware store. The second was Marshal Van Doren, who was shot right out here, intersection of Main and South, and he actually was taken into where Miller's Bakery used to be, where it's part of City Hall now, and he actually died right there. So we installed a plaque on the side of the building for him, and we're going to do a dedication there. There's going to be some light refreshments afterwards in the warrior room, and in case of inclement weather, the entire celebration, I guess it's a celebration, it's an honoring, will be in the community room. So put that on your list. We'd really like to have you attend. May 3rd, Cinco de Mayo Day, Murphy Theater fundraiser, Sierra Vista Cruise, from 11 to 10, which I think is probably all day. 15% of the proceeds go to Murphy Theater. We want to give Victor a shout out for doing that for us. Let's see, May 20th, there's a bike rodeo at Denver Park. It goes from 9 to noon. You have a fun time riding your bike, going to rodeo events, and of course you'll have your bike checked out for safety at the same time. Our spotlight department this month is our water department, and I'm going to give you some forgettable information, but I find it interesting. We have 90 miles of mains delivering water. We have 4 towers, 3 pump stations, 16 miles of raw water line, 2 reservoirs, a dam, and of course a treatment plant, which can treat up to 4 million gallons a day. And what a great place the city of Wilmington is to work. We have Sherry Lewis, Suit Department, 29 years. Terry Credit, Police Department, 22. Kenneth Eisen, Fire Department, 20 years. Josh Gibson, Police, 18. Mark Romer, the Water Department, been with us 23 years, and Josh Snell, 18. These are quite achievable records. And speaking of the Water Department, our contractors are currently recoding the interior of the water tower at Air Park. This is the final component of a 6-year plan that started in 2018 to rehab all 4 water towers. We had our household waste recycling and tire collection last Saturday. 335 residents took advantage of it, and we hope this partnership continues. Very successful. May 13th, Clinton County Farmers Market is open every Saturday from 8:30 to noon at the corner of Walnut and Sugar Tree. And I'm sure you have your code enforcement report. And I got a little display that I want to show off. I went over to Mark? I'm going to block you from the camera.
All right.
These are before and afters. Before, after, before, after, before, after, before, after. This guy inherited several properties. And there were $51,000 of back taxes due. And he was at a loss on what to do. And working with Alan, they come up with a plan where he could get a reduction in his taxes, working with the county treasurer. And then they started on a plan of, okay, we're going to do this to which house. And now we have a new place for people to live in this community. And it's what we would call affordable housing. And if you read this report, the Code Enforcement Department strives to fairly and efficiently enforce and uphold the code and ordinance while protecting the public health, safety, and welfare of our residents, business owners, and visitors. We accept complaints from everybody. I don't know if, I don't have this one blown up, but if you've gone down South Walnut Street, we got another one that's being rehabbed. And it's an ongoing partnership with the Land Bank that has continued to help our Code Enforcement Department deal with problems that have complex issues. Most of these properties have back taxes that have to be resolved. And through the Land Bank, we're able to do that. We also have the Clean Up Wilmington program. And it's hosted 4 cleanup events so far this year. We've had 71 volunteers that have already moved 83 bags of trash from the streets, trails, alleyways. The next scheduled event will be May 20th at 9. You can sign up and receive on their email list to find out what's going on. And then what do I get after they pick up 83 bags of trash? I get a phone call because the bags are along Airborne Road, because they pick up trash on weekends. Our sanitation department doesn't pick up trash until they've run their routes, and then they go and pick up trash. I get a complaint because the bags are along Airborne Road. Why wouldn't I want somebody doing that kind of work that helps every single property owner in this community maintain the value of their property? They make the neighbor that won't cut his grass, cut his grass. He has a junk car on no license. His driveway sitting on blocks. I don't understand the tax on hand advance. I do not understand them at all. And if they think I'm going to fire that woman, they are delusional. She does an outstanding job, and I'm so proud of her. I can't begin to describe it. And on that, Mr. President, Mr. Rogers' act is over. So I
Sound exactly like.
no, that's more like John Wayne.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Auditor Vance, do you have anything for us?
Nothing.
Thank you. Safety Service Director, Mr. Schott.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I think it's super all time.
Oh, you got to fix that, but I got done.
Well, you agree. Just told him to push right mouth.
The singer knows how to help.
Should we
There you go. Yeah, he did. It's a-
Yeah.
All right, while they're working on the technology, Alex left, didn't he? I was just getting ready to brag on Alex. He just left.
Can you catch him?
So if you pull up the News Journal website, you'll see, and we touched on this, $1.4 million, and I want to just give you a little bit of story about that. The first time I met with Alex, he said, what do you want to accomplish, what do you want to do, what's in your plans, all that good stuff. And of course, the first thing I said was, we've got this elephant known as Davis Drive, and we got this elephant known as Davis Drive.
They retrieved you.
You gotta put me up to speak first, and then you have the police retrieve me.
You
full immersion treatment here.
Yeah, you went over your 3 minutes.
Get him back in.
All right, sorry. I want to get the Davis Drive thing as much as possible. As you know, we're already on phase 1, and it's an expensive project, and we're doing it one piece at a time. Let's work together and try to find more funding, get as much dollars as we possibly can, so I can stop hearing about Davis Drive every time I go out to eat. We got with his team, our team got with his team, and Josh and Beth, and we worked together for this 629 fund, and I'm seriously thinking about that. $1.4 million that we find out is coming our way. We found out about that earlier this week. $1.4 million that we didn't have a week ago. That comes out of another pocket, not our local pockets, not our local general fund. So I will be getting with the auditor, and this is good news. This is great news. I said I wanted to finish the whole street in 2 phases. It looks like it's still going to be 3 phases, but it's going to be a lot faster for phase 2 than anticipated originally. So I'll have more information on that in the near future. But I just want to say, you know, when you have partnership, great things can happen, Alex, and I appreciate all the work that you and your team did in getting that. 1.4 million is incredible, so I just wanted to again emphasize that, so thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Brian. I will just say one thing is that if one of the things about economic development is bringing more dollars into your community than that go out, that's through a lot of different ways. That can be a business expansion, that can be new housing into a community, that can also be investment dollars into public infrastructure from the state or federal government. And so that's just another tool and something that the Port Authority prides itself on doing. So thank you, but of course, we can't do that without partnership with you guys, so appreciate that and appreciate it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, I just have a few items for legislation. We'll go ahead and do the first one, and then I think the second and third, B and C, we can do during the presentation, potentially, maybe. Just kidding. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the 3 readings on Resolution R2319, accepting a gift from Sterling Associates for the City of Wilmington Code Enforcement Department and declaring an emergency, please.
Someone bring that forward, please.
How much was the gift?
$500, I believe.
300.
300.
I thought we had 2.
We've already accepted the gift from Joe Harden for 500 a few weeks, and then this one is 300. And were you able to find out who they were?
No.
Could we tell the stories? Rick, I'm gonna make you tell the story.
Okay.
I've learned something since I talked to you earlier.
So, Sterling Associates is a selling firm in Cleveland. They're reaching out to people like me, collecting information about lead service signs, what cities are doing about them. So I was driving home when I did the interview. It was like 45 minutes, so they offered to make a contribution to the city for the time I took to answer the questions. Easy learning.
And he suggested they give it.
Yeah, and Rick suggested code enforcement, so.
I'll move for the first reading of Resolution 2319 by title only.
Second.
Motion by Berkey, second by McKay. First reading, Resolution 2319. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading, please.
A resolution accepting a gift from Sterling Associates for the City of Wilmington Code Enforcement Department and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend the rules and regulations and give Resolution 2319 second and third reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Berkey, second by McKay. Suspension of the rules. Roll call, please.
McKay.
Yes.
Snar.
Yes.
Learman.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Albright.
Yes.
Evelyn.
Yes.
Perky.
Yes.
Motion carries. May we have second and third reading, please?
A resolution accepting a gift from Sterling Associates for the City of Wilmington Code Enforcement Department and declaring an emergency.
Move to pass Resolution 2319 as read.
Second.
Motion second for passage, Resolution 2319 2019. Roll call, please.
Snar.
Yes.
Learman.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Albright.
Yes.
Evelyn.
Yes.
Perky.
Yes.
McKay.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2319 passes.
All right, I'm going to give a quick update on projects. And last night, there was a committee meeting. I know that Nick, you guys spent a considerable amount of time discussing Roundback Avenue. And so I'm just going to discuss it briefly. I do have with me today Paul Goodhue, who is the city consulting engineer and has all of the detailed information regarding Roundback, and he was also here last night answering questions as well. So Nick, jump in if you want to, or if you want to wait until your portion of the council meeting, that's fine as well. Whatever works for you. I will start off by saying anytime you have a project, whether it's a small one or a very large project, there's no such thing as a perfect project, and especially when it's a $10 million project. I have not seen a perfect project. I haven't seen perfect plans. But the beauty is with projects, you can implement them, construct them, and then observe them and make adjustments accordingly. So it's not like once you do something, you're stuck with it forever and you can't modify or change it. That's what we learn with all of our projects. You see some things work, some things don't work. If it works, we go along with it. We don't get complaints. We listen to the citizens. If it doesn't work, we listen, we make the adjustments, we talk to the experts, we balance the factors such as public interest versus safety interests and things like that. The other thing I want to mention again is that a lot of our projects, Roundback, downtown projects, consist of grant funds, which is a very good thing for the city of Wilmington. It would not be possible to do all these things without grant funds. However, with grant funds come strings attached, to the point where some of these projects are managed by the state of Ohio. For example, Roundback is managed by the state of Ohio. The safety improvements made at South Street with the signals, made by the state of Ohio, managed by the state of Ohio. Do we have input? Absolutely. Do we have the final say? We do not. And so I just want to remind everybody, when we do have concerns and complaints, we address those with the state. We explain to them the complaints that we are receiving. We have seen that some things they have modified, and Paul will get into that, and other things they haven't. So it's not that we have all say on all of these projects when we're using grant dollars. Some of those issues that we've been banging our head against the wall. If I could go out there today and fix these issues, I would. But this goes back to the whole who has control over the project, and it's the state of Ohio. And don't take this as I'm throwing them under the bus, because again, like I said, none of these projects would be possible without grant funding at this level of what we are doing. But I want to turn it over to Paul, but I want him to address what's going on with the signal timings, because we've heard those complaints. Obviously, the left-hand turns. Hear those complaints. And there's still some touch-up paint. We don't need to discuss that very much. But especially the signal timings and the left-hand turns, Paul, if you don't mind talking about that and where we are with those.
Yeah. So on the signal timing issue, we've got all the signals installed. However, the coordination equipment that we had spec'd in the plans back in 2020, that equipment is no longer allowed. And so after we sold the project with the state, or I should say the state sold it with our input, they had to pull that equipment out. And so right now, we have been scrambling to find another piece of equipment that's going to allow those signals to communicate together. So that item is about 2 weeks out, so we're here for a lead time. So we're hoping to be able to get those installed, and then those signals will actually talk to each other. So the problem you have with the signal is, think of it like an alarm clock, right? You have 5 of them in your house. Good luck setting every single one of those things to the exact same hour, minute, second, right? You'll never get it right. So what we need to have in each of those control cabinets is a daily sync that will make sure that every single one of those controllers have the exact same clocking. Otherwise, it could be 235.27, 237.12. When you're talking about signals that are 1,000 feet, start thinking of your simple physics, speed, distance, and time. All that thing matters. Every single second counts. And so right now, we believe the signals are individually timed correctly. And I think once we get those new GPS clocks in there, I think that's going to go a long way towards fixing. The other issue that we have with the signal timing issue is we did the safety study, we did an evaluation of the project back in 2018. So those traffic counts, the basis of our design, everything was done based off 2018 traffic conditions. How much has the world changed in 5 years, guys? We've got new businesses up and down that corridor. The travel patterns have changed. So we believe it's gonna be right to see, again, let it implement, let's get it running the way it should, and we may wanna do a signal retiming study. It's good engineering practice to be looking at your signal times every 5 years. So those are the things that we've gotta do. The other issue that Brian mentioned up is the left turn sign is actually called right turn sign, by the way.
For example, did you catch that? 2018 is when we did the traffic study. I'll just give you an example real quick. Holiday Drive, there was no Marriott, there was no car wash, there was no dialysis place. So the traffic counts at that intersection alone, I imagine, have changed dramatically. To the point where a signal may be warranted there today. Maybe, maybe not, we don't know. But that's why we should look at it every 5 years.
Lid Lane now goes through to Davis Drive, so we have a new route in the city that people are taking. So those things happen in communities, and good communities go and they update their signal timings in reaction to that. The good news is that we're already seeing that the signal timing change we already have right now, the change of the reds and the yellows, we're starting to see some safety benefit, and I'll be happy to answer questions about that later, but I'll allow you to keep going.
Part of the problem that we got in with Romack Avenue, as we were growing east, we never went back and looked at what growing east does to the west as far as traffic. And that's why our signalization was like so close together, and we had to look at the entire corridor of Romack Avenue. We need to continue to do that as we grow and not just sit in 2023 for the future. It should be looked at, like Paul said, every 5 years. And this is an example, just from 18 to today. It could change based on the numbers. I hate that. Left-hand turns.
Okay, yeah, so on the idea about the left-hand turns or those no turn on right red signs, so there's some fallacies about those. Those signs are absolutely needed, okay? The problem is they're not working as they're supposed to. They're only supposed to be working on those side street phases at Kroger and Lowe's when you have to prevent the right turns because we're allowing the opposite phase to turn left. Usually you're used to seeing an opposing left vehicle, you would assume that they would yield to you, right? Problem is we haven't got a green indication, as you guys see with the arrows, that's actually saying you have the right of way to turn left. So if we don't have a sign up that says no turn on red, then we are creating a safety problem, exactly, Councilman. So we've got to get those fixed as soon as possible. The state knows that. We've been harping on them, but again, to Brian's point, I've got no power to actually have them change it. The best thing I could do right now, maybe, is try to convince them to leave them on at every single moment of the day. Counter concern about that is then you get people to see, why is this no turn on red sign when it's not supposed to? Then we create a culture of non-compliance, which creates a even bigger safety problem. I don't know which one I want to go. I'm trying to dance a very, very fine line, but what we need to do is have those signs on when they're supposed to be on only. So we're trying to get the manufacturer of the signs to get into town and get those fixed. But to Brian's point, we got to go through ODOT, it goes to the contractors, we got to go through the signal subcontractors, we got to go through the vendor. Think of how these processes work. It's very challenging, and we're doing everything we can. I've been on them very much, knowing that we have a safety project, right? Like, we're going to create some short-term non-safe conditions. So, hope that helps understand that situation. Please spread the news that they, as much as possible, and obey that sign. That is a very important sign to do. Otherwise, we're going to have those dangerous type crashes that this project was supposed to fix, those dangerous left-turning angle crashes.
I hate it though, because you sit there with that light that says no right turn, and you know darn good and well that they don't have the left arrow in front of you, because they're sitting there, stopped at the light. Believe me, we have said to them, just bad the stupid thing, and that they didn't want to, and I know that you have your, I know. But again, an example of, here's what I want, some people always say, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? Because you can't, right? So sometimes you just can't, and so, I want to tell you about that. That's
from a city liability, I'd rather the sign say no turn on red, they don't turn on red, right? Because then hopefully we don't have that liability, versus if the sign is off when it's not supposed to, we open ourselves up to that liability. I would argue right now, again, the city has not accepted those signals. I would argue ODOT shares in that liability if we do have to in a contractor and go down that list of things. Again, scenario none of us want to have, but we want to get these things fixed, and we've been told that this is weeks away from getting this resolved. So.
You want to go ahead and talk about the downtown? Downtown.
Sure. So on the downtown, on the signal timings thing, same idea with this project. When we took on that project actually started as a pedestrian safety project. Okay, we had a lot of concerns about pedestrians. So think back, that study was done, I want to say, in 2019. So traffic volumes in 2019. We actually considered doing some touch-up volumes to check some things for our assumptions.
in spring of 2020, we actually had counts scheduled for the day after the world shut down, so we halted that. I don't know if you guys recall that.
No, like St.
It was
Patty's
St.
Day.
Patty's
It was gonna be, yes, counts were gonna be on St. Patrick's Day. We wanted to see pedestrian counts. That was one of the things we were curious
But
about.
people would be walking.
Yes.
Like around.
Right, to confirm that as we were buttoning up that study, that pedestrians were using it, fact verify what our count was done in the previous year. So, in the construction plans as we have right now, there's priority to the pedestrians. Maybe that's right, maybe that's not, okay? We don't know that, but to Brian's point earlier about iterating, what I'd like to see is I'd like to start from a place of a vulnerable road user is protected first. Let's hear the concerns, and then let's balance. Again, traffic volumes have probably changed since 2019. Like to get ODOT out of town, get these signals done, and then again, maybe have the same consultant or somebody that's gonna be in town to look at one corridor, maybe some scale and efficiency, look at both corridors, and balance those things. Are we balancing time for pedestrians to cross the side streets? I know there's concerns about backups on Locust and Main. I think South Street itself is performing better relatively now than the side streets are, versus before I know we had backups there. So there's a whole balancing act that we gotta look at. So that's on the signal timings, that is on our radar to look at. So we are gonna take a look at that. The large interstate signs. So this is a perfect example when you look at a set of construction plans. They looked at our original signs we had that were black. Those are what's called manual uniform traffic control device. If you guys look, you see that all signals and signs, pavement markings are uniform, right? Yellow is on your left for paint markings, signs need to be consistent, right? That way drivers have the proper expectations.
In other words, you can't have the black signs.
Yes, the short answer is you can't have the black signs, okay? They weren't right. Our consultant overcorrected that and put in freeway signs. The problem we have is when you look at a set of plans and it tells you it's 180 inches, hard to visualize how big they were until they got installed. So that's the way it works.
Literally, the day they went up, I got a call, somebody's gonna hit those signs. And what happened?
Somebody hit the signs. So they're too big. So my direction has been that we're gonna have them all removed. And the goal is to put in smaller route signs of some sort. I'm not sure what that looks like. We need to do an evaluation. Again, I want to get them totally done so that we can look at the entire corridor as it exists now and get the right size signs and then balance all the other amenities that are on that corridor. It's got to be placed in its right thing. Over-signing is a bad thing, okay? Sign pollution, people don't see signs, so it's got to be balanced out. So again, that's on the evaluation list. The big message I'm having on both these projects is let's let ODOT get out of town before we start making tweaks. Otherwise, we're just making quick, rash decisions, maybe paying for something that might not make sense, and then go forward with that. The receptacle at Sugar Tree for festivals, that is on the punch list to get included in there, so they're going to be working on that next couple weeks. And then we realized that the solar panels for RFBs were erroneously rotated to face north versus they're supposed to be facing south. So that will be done as well.
Another citizen complaint.
But a good one.
But a good one,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on Mulberry, we're very close to the finish line as well. The biggest thing that held us up through the winter was obviously getting final asphalt. And then to tie in, we had some drainage concerns I think you guys have seen on Locust nearby. We realized before we put that final pavement in there, let's get that area drained out. We had a chance to get that wrapped up. So that drainage work has been done, and asphalt is just waiting for the weather to be right and the contractor's schedule.
Well, right now, there's a big hole,
Well,
right? There's a big hole right now.
on the far corner,
On the
yes.
far corner, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
working on that.
Good. So Mulberry is very close, and then on Airborne, the only thing hanging out is the school flashers that we've installed, or had installed. The problem we have right there is we don't believe that the school flashers that they put are compatible with the rest of ours in the community. And so the contractor has to prove that what they have is accurate or not. So we are debating that process with them, and then once we get that done, we'll have that closed out.
But they do work.
They do work, yes, they are operational now,
They just
it's not what we spec. We don't believe it's what we spec and we asked for. By contract documents, that's what they're supposed to give us. So, in the interest of safety, I did have them turned on and programmed because I wanted the school zone to be obviously operational and safe in the meantime, but we may be swapping those out. So.
And David's Drive, so phase 1 is underway. I already told you about phase 2 and where we're going with that. So yeah, we're continuing. And just so you know, the rest of phase 3, that's already been designed as well. So we're ready, as soon as we can find the money, we're ready to go, we're ready to finish the entire road. The wastewater treatment plant project, Rick, you wanna wait, or do you wanna give a quick update on that?
Well, we're set to start construction next month, and it'll be a 2-year process if that even happens.
That's it? I mean,
Oh, I could go out for 2 hours.
That's it, that's it, cut him off.
Landfill, expansion 8, before I ask Cody to give us a quick update on where we are with that, I wanna say something real quick about the bidding process, because it really makes me mad when somebody accuses me of bid rigging. Absolutely, it makes me upset. So let me tell you what happens. You advertise, you have bid packages, they go out, those bids are sealed, we either do the bid by envelopes in person, or we do it electronically. We have moved to electronic bid openings. You have low bids and high bids. When you open those bids, you automatically analyze the low bid first. You do not even look at the second or third bid, because we look at bids for being responsible and responsive, and you start with the low bid. Tucson was the low bidder, not the gentleman that came up here last night at the city council and accused us of bid rigging. Tucson was the low bid. I reviewed their bid package along with our engineer and our expert. You find out whether or not it was a responsive bid. That's step number one. If you decide that it's responsive, then you go and find if the person that bid, if they're responsible. Responsible is based on their history. Responsive is based on their bid itself. So there was nothing in the bid itself that said it was not responsive. The issue was that there was a mandatory pre-construction meeting held prior to the bid. In order for me to go to the second bid and not the low bid, I would have to show Tucson or prove that Tucson had a competitive advantage over the second bid, and 2, it resulted in it and it impacted its low bid. There is no way I could show by missing a meeting that it either impacted their bid or that they had a competitive bidding advantage over the second bidder. In other words, if I had rejected that low bid and went with the second bid, we would probably be in more legal trouble. We would be in legal trouble for doing that. So I was left with little or no choice but to accept the low bid, and that's the process. What I said now, moving forward, let's not use that word mandatory, because if it doesn't have teeth in that, if it doesn't have legal teeth, mandatory, which I don't believe it does, then don't have it. Let's just have it be optional in pre-construction meetings moving forward. And almost all of our bid packages have that already. That one slipped in there with the mandatory language. So that shouldn't happen anymore again. But I wanted to get the record straight on that, because that is one heck of an accusation to make in a public setting. Especially when I sent the guy a letter and I never heard back from him until that night when he came in here and accused me of bid rigging. So that's where we're at with that situation. Brian? Where did that come from?
My recollection is he didn't say bid rigging. Bid rigging is a whole different scenario. That's where two contractors.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Two contractors get together.
That was the TikTok. My bad. I'm sorry. That was social media. I'm sorry.
Okay. And yes, it was, and I saw it, and it was not bid rigging.
We can look at the minutes. I don't think he called it bid rigging, but he said something inflammatory.
If I could add right there. If I could add, I appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, we got a memorandum emailed to us from Mr. Scheidecker the next day explaining everything that he just explained. I was totally comfortable with that. I appreciated getting that within 24 hours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't like getting caught off guard like that in a public setting, so I didn't recognize him before he came up here. Cody, you want to give a quick update on the expansion? Or?
So like Brian said, Tucson won the bid. They're a company out of the Canton area. They started mobilizing equipment 2 weeks ago, and then started construction this week actually. We had a pre-construction meeting on Monday. They started doing some work yesterday and today, and the whole project should be complete around August. Should be able to place trash in August.
All right, getting to the legislation for tonight. We have two pieces of legislation. The first one is Wilmington Park to Davis Drive. It's a path. next to Lynn Lane. We've already received a legacy grant from the foundation, right? The $100,000, which I believe is the largest grant that they've given out. At least it was at the time. I'm pretty sure it still is. And we have a May 26th bid opening date because we want to get moving on this year and get it completed. So under item B of my portion of the agenda, I'm asking for 3 readings of resolution R2320, please.
I move to give first reading of resolution 2320 by title only.
Second.
Motion by Perky, second by Osborne.
It's actually C, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. C is the David's Drive.
Withdraw the movement. Move to give resolution 2321.
21, thank you, sorry. I jumped ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, that's
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, okay.
Second.
And
Second.
still Osborne, okay.
Motion second, first reading, resolution 2321. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading, please.
A resolution authorizing advertising for bids for the Wilmington Parks to David's Drive Path Connector, authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with the lowest and best bidder, authorizing expenditure of funds for same and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend the rules and regulations, give resolution 2321 second and third reading by title only.
Second.
Motion second by the same suspension of the rules, roll call please.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snark.
Yes.
Motion carries, second, third reading please.
A resolution authorizing advertising for bids for the Wilmington Parks and Davis Drive Path Connector, authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with the lowest and the best bidder, authorizing expenditure of funds for same and declaring an emergency.
Move to pass resolution 2321 as read.
Second.
Motion second for passage, resolution 2321, roll call please.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snark,
Yes.
Learman.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Okay, on the screen I have a map of the trail. I love maps. Did you want to just, I know we're kind of
Yeah,
running, but
so briefly, all we're doing with this, as when Williams Farm subdivision was built, the actual path itself was graded and the aggregate base was placed. The project that you guys just took legislation on actually puts the final course of asphalt on that, to seal that course up. We actually have that path, it's going to be 12 feet wide, so not only is it going to be a multi-use path, but also has an ability for access for utility personnel in order to maintain the sewer system as well. So we're just finishing that project up, and again, there's a grant application to support that as well.
cool. All right. The second piece of legislation, which I believe is item B.
Actually, Brian, I want to comment. That started when Larry Roberts ran the water line through the park and agreed graciously to backfill with stone rather than soil. And that established the base for part of that trail. And just want to give him a shout out and credit for doing that.
Absolutely.
It's over a mile too. I mean, it's a significant distance
Yep,
of
that's
trail.
right.
Right. I believe it was a sewer line.
Yeah, that was a sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, item B is the Wilmington Crossing project, and that's federal safety funding. June 2nd is what we are hoping to have as our opening date. And why don't you go through it real quick, and then we'll go ahead and then we'll do legislation next.
So the Wilmington Crossings project, if you guys recall, is a safety project aimed at pedestrian safety throughout the city. The idea is it's a new program that ODOT Safety created last year. We jumped on the very first application where we're going to do 7 in the city locations with this first project, 7 pedestrian crossing improvements. So you can see on the screen here, this is a sketch that was part of our actual application. You can see that we're actually bringing curbs in to shorten crossing distance and then give that friction to slow those vehicles down. Also adding in those RFBs, so those rectangular rapid flashing beacons. I was at the slow down to make sure I put the 2 R's in the right direction, by the way. But again, as you guys have seen, as we're putting in there. So there's a total of 7 of them. Brian is scrolling very nicely. Again, didn't give you guys the construction plans, but these are the images that captured ODOT's attention and then helped them fund those for us. And so we did this to get the funding, 90% federal funding through the state, thankfully. And then we are actually gonna, with the some of the challenges we've had with some of the ODOT projects, we're gonna take our hands and take our shot at managing this project ourselves. So that's part of what we are gonna be doing this time, to have a little bit more control over the process and hopefully get these built faster.
So there's Truesdale Street and Locust Street, South Street, Nelson Avenue by the new trail, Thorn Avenue. And I believe that's all of them. Did I miss one? Did I miss the first one?
The mulberry one?
Oh,
Oh.
yep.
I didn't catch what that one.
This is South Street, right in front of the library.
Correct.
Or by the library.
Yeah, so we have one in front, North-South Street in front of the library. Truesdale Street is actually interesting. Typically, ODOT doesn't like it when you do projects outside of your public right-of-way, adds risk to the project, right? Here, they were allowing us to partner with the school, and so we're actually, as part of the project, reconfiguring their exit drive there. Make that, again, smaller. And the key was we wanted to make sure the buses could still get out there, but you want to shrink that footprint down and give pedestrians a real chance at that intersection when they're crossing. And so there's a safe crossing that's going on there. I want to say that was one of our top priorities. Obviously, Locust Street, right outside of the courthouse. A lot of people are crossing in that mid-block cross wherever, so wanted to get a crossing there. We're actually
Right outside the municipal building.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the municipal.
Yeah, and here's Fiesta Veracruz in the two parking lots.
Oh.
Right.
So, because nobody was going down when they were supposed to. Everybody,
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's why that's there.
First rule of thumb, put your pedestrian crossings where people actually use them,
Yeah.
not where you think that they should cross.
And then this is the mall.
Here's the Mulberry one. Oh, no,
Oh,
South
South
Side.
Street,
That's
South
South
Street,
Side.
sorry, South
The
Street.
mulberry one, I don't think
It
it's,
didn't make the,
it didn't make it
slideshow.
inside.
Yeah, so imagine where the Mulberry crossing is now. It's at a very heavy skew. We wanted to straighten that out and shorten the crossing distance, if you can kind of visualize what that would be.
At the trail.
At the trail, sorry, yes, the Mulberry crossing on the trail.
There's South Street, there's Thorn Avenue and Nelson.
Yeah, Nelson, we already had the crossing last year, placed with, when the Luther E. Warren, Luther E. Warren Peace Path was extended to the Mary J. Looney Trail. And what we want to do is just add those flashers, because cars aren't expecting a crossing there. So we built everything we could with our funds that we got to build the trail, and then we asked the state to chip in on the last piece to further enhance that crossing. And then Thorn by the high school, crossing over to the athletic facilities. Again, we wanted to make sure there was a safe crossing for.
Biggest thing was during like football games and stuff, it was very dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
People crossing right
Yes.
there, so during sporting events especially, so that's why we.
And we got all 7 locations in our application, and they're all ready to go, and then construction's expected to start around September.
We just need a resolution.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll move for the first reading of resolution 2320 by title only.
Motion by Perkins, second by Osborne, first reading resolution 2320.
That is Lehrman.
Learman?
Second by Learman.
Yeah.
Resolution 2320. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading, please.
Resolution authorizing advertising for bids for the CLI Wilmington Crossings FY23 project. ODOT PID 117146, authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract with the lowest and the best bidder, authorizing expenditure of funds for same, and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend the rules and regulations, give resolution 2320 a second and third reading by title only.
Second.
Motion second by the same folks. Roll call, please.
Albright.
Yes.
Evelyn.
Yes.
Perky.
Yes.
Kay.
Yes.
Snar.
Yes.
Learman.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Motion carries. We have second and third reading,
A
please.
resolution authorizing advertising for bids for the CLI Wilmington Crossings FY23 project. ODOT PID 117146, authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with the lowest and best bidder, authorizing expenditure of funds for same, and declaring an emergency.
Move to pass resolution 2320 as read.
Second.
Motion by Perkins, second by McKay for passage, resolution 2320. Roll call, please.
Evelyn.
Yes.
Perky.
Yes.
Kay.
Yes.
Snar.
Yes.
Learman.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Albright.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2320 passes.
Okay, and then in front of you, I have provided,
I'm sorry.
I'll hurry up. This is the part of each year that this is something I don't want to do each year, but back in 2017, council passed an ordinance requiring me to do it every year, and that is to review the utility rates and provide a report to city council outlining our rates, future projects, recommendations for the enterprise departments, which include sanitation, stormwater, wastewater, and water department. So we have conducted that review, and I provided you with our recommendations. I will say this is council's job, okay? This is not the destination. This is the start of the journey to have the discussions on the rates for each of those departments. So the intent of the original legislation was give you the report, let you digest it, and then I would anticipate that you would want this to go to committee to discuss further and to really pick it apart, and then go to full council after that with any potential legislation. So that would be my plan. I will, and myself and Rick and Cody will stay at the high level, right, Rick? We'll stay at a very high level on just give you an idea of what those recommendations are. But then obviously you can read it for yourself too. The sanitation department is the first one on there. There are recommendations, and what we did this year is actually provide a draft of what we would like to see, or what we are recommending. Again, this is up for discussion as far as the rates are concerned. The sanitation department had a 5-year rate plan in place. That is set to expire at the end of this year. What we are looking at and what we put in the report is that, and that was a 5% increase, and it was for expansion, pay for the projects, future expansions, running the landfill, inflation, all of those things that are contained in the report. What we've put in there is one additional year of 5% for next year for 2024, because it'll be here before you know it, and it'll sneak up on you. And let's be honest, there's going to be a new change. There's going to be a lot of new people, not new seats here. So we're recommending that we do another year of the rate increase, and then come back next year on the sanitation utility billing report and decide if you want a longer rate plan or do away with or reduce it. I mean, whatever you want to do. But we felt that a 1-year rate plan increase was appropriate. The other big increase that you will, or significant, I should say, change to the legislation would be the landfill tipping fees. And Cody can speak to this more than I can, because he did a lot of research compiling comparables of other landfills and what they're charging for city residents and businesses, and non-city residents and businesses when they bring waste or trash into the landfill. And currently, as you can see, for example, cars and small trucks, it's a $12 per cubic yard. The recommendation is $16, and again, that's based on comparables. And this is the other thing that we considered in discussion about this, and I want to include you in the discussion as well, and the public, of the intent of the landfill. And it's always been my understanding from the public and from council that it is our landfill, and we want it to be our landfill. And what is happening, because our tipping rates for commercial are lower than around, we're filling up faster with commercial waste than what we expected. And so, like, for example, the life of the last phase was significantly reduced because we were bringing in a lot more waste, which we believe was from the commercial haulers bringing it in. I would much rather see that airspace be taken by residents with the residential pickup than commercial businesses bringing it in from wherever. So to be more competitive with the other landfills, that's the main reason. And Cody, if I miss anything, let me know. But that's the main reason we're asking for those rate recommendations.
Brian, what's the life expectancy total of the landfill right now?
Well, there's a lot of variables on that. When we were doing the big expansion to the west, it ranges anywhere. Our best estimate is 50 years, but that is if we do not expand or acquire more land, which we need to acquire.
I was going to say we're out of land, right?
there is land over there, but we
Right.
do not own it, yes.
Right.
So that's something that we've actually, we've been looking at the land to the west and acquiring land, so,
Our real issue is cover.
but that is dirt, is finding soil. So that is something we are looking into. Is there anything you wanted to hit, Cody, with the tipping?
No, I mean,
fees?
just to add on to that, we have land to place trash. We don't have land to borrow dirt from to cover the trash with. That's the problem right now. I contacted 5 other fairly local landfills when I compared rates, and we were significantly cheaper than almost all of them. So that's one reason for the increase in rates. And if any of you guys want to discuss it or have questions, you can email me or we can talk whenever about it.
All right, and finally, the last big change, and we're gonna have to have this conversation, is recycling. We're gonna have to discuss recycling. There is this, rumor has it that we make money off of recycling. In fact, the opposite is with recycling. And as you know, we have the 1 cent fee. We need to have a hard discussion on where we want the future of recycling to go in the city of Wilmington. And I will give you just some numbers really quick, and then I'll shut this down as far as my part. We recycled 319 tons approximately in 2022. To give you a comparison, 319 tons compared to 50,000 tons of trash. So it is a very, so when the argument of you're saving airspace, yeah, you are, 319 tons approximately. I want you to compare the 319 that we're saving compared to the 50,000 tons that we received in 2022. So remember that. And then what does it cost to save that 319 tons of airspace? And the other big myth, how much of that 319 tons is actually being recycled, and how much of it is Rumpke taking and putting it into another landfill? Because if there is cross-contamination, they don't recycle it. And we have cross-contamination often. I will tell you that we spent $12,418 for them to take the recyclables last year. $16,000 in fuel to haul the recyclables to Dayton, because that is the nearest location that they would take them. Cost $4,800 for the tires, $5,200 for the servicing of the recycling truck, and $10,000 for parts for the recycling truck. And we haven't even calculated the labor for 317 tons of recycling. So we need to have a hard talk if the landfill's going to absorb those costs and continue to absorb those costs. Are we going to have a fee for the recycling, or are we going to do away with the whole program altogether? That's something we will discuss on another day, and I'm sure we'll have public feedback on that one. So, any questions at that high level? Sorry, my report was longer than usual.
Just a quick question. When recycling got started, was that paid for by a grant somewhere? Is that Jim's a new person? Did that all come from a grant at one time?
It did, and it's been ongoing as well. For example, the blue tires were part of a grant. The recycling truck was part of a grant. I can't remember what the initial grant was. But yeah, the truck was through the EPA grant dollars. We had a 3-year commitment on that. The toters were through grants. But as of right now, we are not under any commitments, such as the 3 years on the truck. We're past that. So now would be a good time to discuss it. And I'm not advocating for or against at this point. I just want you to have the facts and the information. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right. Moving into.
Hold on, Rick wants, yes he does. Look for it.
no.
Oh, it's not on there.
It's not on there.
In your packet, appreciate how much time Rick put into the rate review. Go for it, go for it.
So, anyway, I'm gonna water first. I mentioned during the budget process that the revenues last year were lower than expected. So what happened because of that is our debt service coverage was raised the same. We made it, but it was like 2022. So the current rate ordinance has one more 3% increase for next year. So we recommend that we keep that on the books to make sure we keep a good standing on the bond requirements. Then in 2025, the Grant County income should start. And with that income, we should not have to have further water rate increases, for a while after that. We did a projection for a couple more years out that's in the packet to show you how the Grant County income will affect the overall water fund. On the sewer rates in the sewer fund, that's all getting driven now by the plant project. And we ended up receiving a rate of 1.03% on the loan, which we were quite happy with. We were afraid to be more like 3%. So based on what it will take to make the loan payments, we'll need 4.5% annual increases starting in 25 and lasting each year through 2034. We already have a 2.5% increase on the books for next year, and that should stay in place too. On the stormwater utility, the list of issues with the stormwater collection system, you gotta think that a lot of those pipes are 100 years old. So the list is growing very fast. The things we need to get to. But at this point, we're not going to recommend any adjustment in the stormwater fee. As quick as I can be.
Amazing.
Does that conclude your report now?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. If you want to stay informed, I'll just leave this up here.
All right, moving into committee reports. City Revitalization Committee, Mr. McKay.
No report, Mr. President. However, I will say, we do have our hotel lodging tax report in your packet, and it's there for everyone to look at in case you have any questions. So, it's serving its purpose, and we appreciate the work of that committee. So, that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. City Services Committee, Mr. Evelyn.
Mr. President, we had a really good meeting last night, and I want to thank all for being there to elaborate a good deal on the Roundback Avenue project. We went into a lot more detail last night than we did tonight, but I think the general feeling of the committee was that we had a lot of my questions answered. Bill had a lot of good points he brought up. I want to bring up one part that kind of sticks with me, and that is the Holiday Drive. Since we haven't had any new data, since all that development has taken place out there, including Kettering across the street, I think probably take a good hard look at the warrant for traffic light there. That would probably help to solve some of the speed problems that Bill was particularly concerned about.
And the misconception about no left-hand turn too. Misconception about, also, we learned last night too, there was a misconception no left-hand turn being permitted on Holiday Drive onto Romback. So I know that Paul's going to explore the possibility of striping that so there's a left turn lane and a right turn lane as well, because that does create a congestion area also coming out of the hotels.
Exactly, thanks, Bill. The other thing that came out in the meeting, Paul did some preliminary studies of the accident rates in that area, and based on, well, of course, 2021 was a COVID year, so, that probably skewed some of the traffic somewhat, but 2022, our accident rate out there was actually down, and as Paul pointed out, the most serious accidents that take place are side impact crashes. there always has been, probably always will be, a lot of rear enders out there. But the side crashes are the ones that cause the most injuries. But both of those numbers are down, right, Paul?
Yes, I can share the numbers as really quick if you'd like. So we were averaging, we studied originally for the safety study, had the years 2015 to 2017, we were averaging a total of 48 crashes over the entire roundabout corridor from Oak to Walmart, so 48 average per year. In 2022, we had that down to 38, so we decreased 10. The real win is we had 14 injury crashes per year, we had only 6 in 2022. That's very high level, and the good news is that's year one. You would expect that the trends would continue on, especially if we can get some better signal timing, but to your point, Councilman, that very happy to see that news, and I think we're trending in the right direction. And the other thing I shared with him is before we started the project, a look-alike corridors, ODOT studies, look-alike corridors all throughout the state, we were underperforming. We had safety problems that were way worse. If you take the data from last year, our safety performance is better than now the statewide look-alike corridor. So on the safety front, we asked for safety funds and we're delivering safety enhancements. So that was the good news I was able to share last night. So thank you for having me, Councilman.
Sure, thanks, Paul. Also, Chief Mason was there last night. Appreciate that, Chief. Yes, we're going to have the law enforcement memorial service coming up. But I will also mention, it's come to my attention that this is International Firefighters Day. And a lot of times the department doesn't get the credit nor the emphasis that it deserves. And Chief, you did a good job down there. Good, Chief. Thanks. He was there to talk to us about something that's coming up, and I'll just hold off in supplementals. It's coming up on the Finance Committee, and I appreciated your input last night. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Finance Committee, Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item, 3 readings on ordinance 2319 for some supplemental appropriations. There's 5 of them. I will be as verbatim as I can with our time as it is what it is. Item A, from the general fund to code enforcement incidentals for the sum of $800. This appropriation puts the gifts of $500 from Joe Harden and $300 from Sterling Associates in the line for code enforcement programs. Item B, from the fire emergency ambulance fund to the lease payment fund of $60,783.98, and this is the final lease payment on Rescue 2. Item C, from the water fund to sludge disposal for $35,000. The bid for sludge removal came in about 35% higher than in 2022. Item D, from the general fund to income tax refunds for the sum of $50,000. Needed to continue to pay refund requests. And our last whopping supplemental appropriation in item E, the plant improve fund to plant improve loan expense for the sum of $1 to appropriate the final funds in Fund 258 for approved payment of expense. So with that being said, are there any questions? Seeing none, I move to give the first reading only on ordinance 2319 by title only.
Second. Motion by Albright, second by Osborne. First reading ordinance 2319. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading, please.
An ordinance making supplemental appropriations.
I move to suspend the rules and regulations and give ordinance 2319 second and third reading by title only.
Second. Motion second for suspension of the rules. Roll call, please.
Perky.
Yes.
McKay.
Yes.
Snar.
Yes.
Learman.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Albright.
Yes.
Evelyn.
Yes.
Motion carries. May we have second, third reading, please?
An ordinance making supplemental appropriations.
And I move to pass ordinance 2319 as read.
Second. Motion second for passage. Ordinance 2319. Roll call, please.
McKay.
Yes.
Snar.
Yes.
Learman.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Albright.
Yes.
Evelyn.
Yes.
Perky.
Yes.
Ordinance 2319 passes.
No further items, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Judiciary Committee, Mr. Perky.
No report.
Public Works Enterprise Committee, Mr. Snar.
No report.
Thank you. We should probably put his name on there. Just a thought. Thank you.
Is he not on the agenda?
Well, the name, his name is not after the name.
Oh,
And I always have to remember who it is, but I
sorry.
All right.
It's on purpose.
Thank you,
This
Mr.
slide.
Snar. Reports to council, you have the income tax report, April 2023, and the hotel lodging tax certification. What is your pleasure?
Move they be accepted as presented.
Second.
Motion is second to accept the reports as presented. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Reports are accepted. We now reach the area of the meeting that's open to the public. Anyone wishing to address council? Do we have folks? I think we don't need to reiterate our new thoughts. Just leave your comments in 3 minutes or less. Do we have folks that wish to address us?
We do.
Madam Clerk,
Yes. We have one, Jason Stoops. Would you like to come forward?
Mr. Stoops.
There you go, sir. Let me know when you are ready to roll.
When you're ready.
Okay. Okay.
Members of City Council, I'm here today to offer sincere apology for my action in having been part of creating the Facebook page Wilmington, Ohio Crime Concerns. While my decisions were made with good intentions, the group itself has turned into something that I deem inappropriate and hurtful to members of the council and our community. I want to make it clear that our page was not created to cause harm or spread lies. Rather, a group of us was frustrated with the registry issues we were having here in Wilmington and felt our concerns were not being heard. In late September, a group of people met at 2 invite-only meetings about the vacant property and the problems Sugar Tree Ministry has and the programs Sugar Tree Ministries has to offer. After these meetings, we turned to social media as a way to express our frustration and also to urge others to be informed about our community and the issues we need to address. I realize how social media can be used to manipulate the truth even more clearly than spreading real information. Once I decided to run for mayor, I removed myself from the group entirely. The hate speech and false information made it clear that this page was being used to manipulate people into believing that the current administration has not had the city as its first partner. This is far from the case. Most of the people who are spreading rumors and ruining reputations aren't even from here or vested in our community. I feel personally responsible for helping this page, and these people have a platform to stand on. I am angry hearing that from Lee Salem that he has received death threats at his home after his home address was shared. I am forward that someone had the audacity to place threatening purge letter on the door of Sugar Tree Ministries. This is not how we make our community better. I know that being a member of the city council is a difficult job, and I respect the work each of you do to make our city a better place. I also want to apologize to Brett Reddick in advance and the memory of Judge Daugherty and any others who have been negative impact because of the misinformation spread by others on the Facebook page. Think of how much good these people have done for our community rather than see the keyboard warrior rumors, look at the actual hard work they put into our community. Moving forward, I want to rebuild the trust that has been lost as a result of this page between the city administration and our community at large. I am committing to doing what it takes to inform the community of the truth and to turn the page in an already pretty good book. Again, I offer my deepest apologies and look forward to working constructively on the future of our community and the needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoops. Do we have any other presenters? Thank you. That will conclude our regular meeting. We do have an executive session, and you will be asked to leave if you're not part of the executive session. There are going to be action items, I believe. So we could have a motion to move into executive session.
Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22, GM1, enter executive session to consider employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of public employee or official, or the investigation of charges and complaints against public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual.
Second.
Motion by Perkins, second by Learman, to move into executive session. Roll call, please.
Second by me.
We'll give it to Jay.
Congratulations. You took it.
Roll call, please.
Yes, Snar. Snar. Clearman.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Cleveland.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're now in executive session. We'll wait for the room to be cleared and then
Jason, I appreciate it.